going on, guys? Stepping in S&E's garage. We got a cold air intake for the TRD. We went with the Injen cold air intake. We're going to go ahead and install that today. We're going to get some before sound clips, and we're going to get some after sound clips. So without further ado, let's set the camera up, point it at the car, rev it up a little bit, see how she sounds stock. Alright guys, so we have our Injen intake unboxed here. Here we have our heat shield. Here's one of the intake tubes. Injen's dry filter. This is not oiled, it's dry. We have the elbow that comes off of the throttle body, a hose clamp. And we have the, it's the heat shield for the, or the rubber shield for the heat shield, some other things. And in here, there's a couple of vacuum hoses and stuff. So right off the bat, first thing we're going to do, we're going to go over to the car and we're going to pull the factory intake completely out of the car, get it out of the equation, and then we'll start following the directions. I don't really think I'm going to need them, but we'll follow them, just, follow procedure. So let's get over to the car. Alright guys, so right off the bat, we're going to get the whole top half of the intake out of the way. We're going to get the big intake tube that comes from the throttle body to the air cleaner. I'm probably going to take that off with the air cleaner, so we're going to disconnect the mass airflow sensor, unplug it, and just move everything out of the way and start getting ready for the installation of the new intake. So the mass airflow sensor connector is out of the way. So now we're going to take this air box, unclip that, so now that should be freed, and we're going to loosen this 10mm hose clamp, move some stuff out of the way. We're going to get this whole thing out of the way. Nice and loose. Pop that off. Just going to move this right out of our way. There's one little vacuum hose here on the bottom you're going to have to pull off. That's connected to the air cleaner. Get that right out of the way. Put it in our Injen box. Okay, we're going to get our air filter. OEM Toyota filter. Get that out of the way. And we're going to pull this lower air box out. We're going to figure out how to pull that out first. And we're going to go from there. It looks like it's just held in with some rubber stoppers, honestly. Yeah, okay, so that comes right out. Little rubber stopper, you pull it, it comes right out. So the factory intake, as you see it, is already out of the car. So this is actually going to be a very quick and very easy install. So let's get the new one out, start setting it up, see how they want to put the heat shield in, and I'll take you on the ride with me. Let's go. Alright guys, so the first thing it says to do in the directions after removing the factory intake is to go ahead and take the stock mass airflow sensor out of the factory intake. Now one thing I do want to show you here, there is an arrow on the mass airflow sensor that points towards the engine. So when you install it in your new intake air tube, make sure you install it in that way. It is held in by 2 Phillips head screws, so they come right out. Number 1, number 2, so they are out. And we have the mass airflow sensor right here. We're going to put it aside, keep it somewhere safe. And we are going to screw these 2 screws back into the intake assembly so that they do not get lost should we ever need to put this unit back in. If we sell the car or if it has to go in for any warranty repairs, it's always advisable to reinstall the factory equipment so that the technician or the dealership can't point fingers. And that's coming from a professional dealership mechanic. Just if you're going to bring it to the dealer, put it back to stock. So let's get this out of the way. Let's go to step 2. Alright, so now we're going to take the mass airflow sensor that we just removed and we're going to install it to our intake tube. Now this should only go one way, but if you look, there's a little thing on here that says flow, and it's pointing that way. So we're going to point that arrow that way, and this should line up, and it does, so it should only line up one way. And we're going to install it using the screws provided by Injen, which are Allen key screws, so make sure you have an Allen key when you're going to install this. I'll lay out all the tools that you're going to need. So we're just going to snug these up. You don't got to kill them because you are screwing them into, you know, it's a plastic sensor. You don't want to damage it. Okay, so that's in. Our next step here is to install. Alright, so we did that. Now we have to add the rubber trim to the top and the bottom of the heat shield. So we're going to go ahead and start doing that now. Let me get set up for that. Alright, so we got our heat shield here. This long, thin one is going to go on the top of the heat shield, so you're just going to kind of push it into the channel. And once it starts, you're just going to walk it on the rest of the way, like so. Pull some slack this way a little bit. We have a little extra. We can snip that off later. So there's that. So the next step is to put some of this in here, which is probably, yeah, going to be this one. So this is going to go here in the hole, like so. Does look like we're going to have some excess here too that we're going to have to cut off. Okay. It's tricky to get this to seat because it's in a circle. There it goes. All right, now we're in business. Cutting dikes here. We're going to snip this right about here. Snip to fit. Oh God, I gotta make this work. Alright, so there's that. We have that installed. While I got my cutting dikes out, we're going to snip this excess here too. Okay, now we have one more piece of heat shield. This goes on the bottom here. It looks like it goes from here, like this, to here. Now this one does not need to be snipped. This one actually fits right. So they give you a little extra on the other pieces that you're going to have to snip off and make fit. But the bottom one fits good. Okay, so now here's the next directions. Push down on the clips on the radiator cover, remove the clips and guard for installation of heat shield. So we're going to go back over to the car and we're going to take the radiator shield out and prepare to install the heat shield in the car. So this right here is the shield they're talking about removing. So we're just going to push down on all these clips and carefully remove them. We don't want to break these. 1, 2, there should be 4 of them. 3 and 4. Okay. 5, there's a 5th one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Just like that, we're going to pull this heat shield out of the way. We're going to place it up here. You know what, we're not going to place it up there because it's going to be in the way. We're going to get this out of our way. Alright, so now that that's out of the way, let me go get the heat shield. We're going to bring it over here. We're going to follow the directions to get that in. Alright, we're back over at the car. Our next step here is to remove this 10mm bolt. The heat shield is actually going to use this bolt in order to bolt down. And then there's one rubber grommet here that we have to remove on the battery tray. And now if you put this in, just, you know, to see how it would fit, the piece that we need to take out is the one that's closest to the fender on the battery tray. It's this little rubber grommet right here. So this comes right out. We're going to take this 10mm bolt out and we're going to set the heat shield into place. Okay, so that's removed. This is going to go into place like so. I'm going to lift this up, sandwich it in between here, and then that's going to sit right above here. So let me just start this by hand now. Always start bolts by hand, never run them in with a gun. Learned that one the hard way numerous times. It's not worth rushing. Alright, so now let's see what's next on the directions here. Now install the heat shield and position the brackets on the heat shield. Alright, so we did that. We're going to secure the back of the heat shield using the M6 screw and M6 nut and washer. So we're going to go get them from our parts that the intake came with and secure it. Alright, so we're in the middle of starting our nut and washer combo here. This is going to be a little tricky because of the way they want you to do it. So I'm using my one hand to hold the nut or the bolt in the washer, and I'm using my other to start the nut. And once the nut starts, which it just did, I can snug it down. Okay, so that is snugged. We're going to use a ratchet, obviously, to finish that off. So let me tighten that up, tighten this up, and we'll move to the next step. Tighten that. Get over here. Tighten that. That's tight. The next step in our directions is I'm going to grab the camera and show you. If you look right here, there's a little hole in the heat shield that connects to the factory scoop. And what they want you to do is use a drill right here. There it is. There's the light. There's the hole. They want you to drill a hole through the heat shield here, and then we're going to use another bolt and washer to tighten that. So I'm going to go ahead and set my drill up. We're going to drill right through that. So I'm going to hold this up on this side, and I'm just going to Alright, we punched right through that plastic. So now we're going to get our bolt and washer, and we are going to wipe off that little bit of scratch there, and we're going to put our nut and bolt in. Alright, so we have our nut and bolt through that hole we just drilled, and we're just going to tighten it up. That's nice and tight. We're going to move on to the next step. So we did this. We now secure and tighten all the screws and nuts using the socket or wrench. We did that. Now with provided 1/8 inch plastic fitting coupler and 3mm hose from step 5, connect the OEM vacuum line. So let's go ahead and do that. So the easiest way for me to do this is to show you. This is the vacuum line here. So what the kit comes with is another hose that I just dropped and a coupler. So you're going to use that hose and the coupler in order to extend that vacuum line and connect it to the intake. All right, so we have this vacuum line extended. We're going to move on to the next step, which is install the 3.5-inch elbow hose with the clamps provided to the throttle body. So we're right here. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to get that elbow, and we're going to attach it to the throttle body. Now, this is one thing I'm super anal about. You guys don't have to do this. I always like to make sure that my hose clamps are facing the same way. It just looks better. It doesn't look like a sloppy installation. It looks like you put some thought into it. So that's the way I'm going to install it. So we're basically going to slip this, let me just adjust the camera here, onto the throttle body, like so. Okay. And we are going to leave them loose right now because we're probably going to have to adjust them. And let's see what's next. Okay, wrap the MAF harness under the heat shield, so we're going to go ahead and do that. And then we're going to install the intake tube. So let's wrap this harness up under here. This is the mass airflow harness here. So this is coming under the heat shield now, like so. So now we have it sticking out over here. And we're going to go get the Injen intake tube, and we're going to slide it through. Now in the directions they tell you to start like this on this side and push it through. So as long as you read the directions, you'll be fine. So now we just have to get this all lined up. So we're going to spray all this rubber stuff here with some silicone spray, just to kind of help everything slide into place, because it's fighting me a little bit, and I just wanted to make sure I get this on video because it is going to fight you a little. So we're going to slide this into place, like so. Let me loosen that clamp a little bit. Those are 8mm, not 10s. Let me go grab an 8. Okay, so that is now opened a little bit more, and that should let me slide this puppy on a little bit more, which it is. So with that being said, we're going to tighten both of our clamps, the one on the throttle body and the one on the intake tube here. In a short moment, I just want to get this to slide on a little more even. There we go. So now we're going to take this, make sure it's even all the way around, line it up. So that's tight. We're going to do the same thing here. Now remember, like I said, I have mine all facing the same way. It just looks neater. Okay, so those are tight. So now we have a couple of hoses to hook up. We have to hook up our little extension hose here. It connects under here to the intake, you'll see it. And then we have to do the same to the bigger vacuum hose or intake breather that is on the intake tube back here. Alright, we got our mass airflow connector plugged in. We got this little vacuum hose here on. We got our crankcase breather here on. And like I said, we plugged in our mass airflow sensor. So we're going to get that air cleaner now. We're going to slide that on. Now, I also went and got myself a pre-filter. It's called the Hydro Shield by Injen. Part number 1040 BLK for black. And that's going to slide over the filter And like I said, it's going to act like a pre-filter, catch any large debris, keep water off the filter, things like that. So we're going to slide that on too. We're going to tighten everything up and we're going to fire it up. Alright guys, so the intake install is done. We got the intake ran. We're just going to slide our heat shield here back into place, the radiator heat shield. And we're going to use the removed clips to reinstall it. To reset the clips, you just push the center out and it'll pop out like this. That way when you put them back in, you just kind of line them up, push till they click. So we're going to do that with all 5 of these. We're going to fire the car up. Now for the exciting part. Alright guys, so you heard it revving a little bit, definitely a lot more throaty than stock. Wanted to take it down the road real quick, get it on video to see how how it sounds now, and it is definitely a lot louder. Yeah, she's a screamer now. I love it. Totally wakes the car up. You can hear it more than the exhaust now, which is pretty cool. So thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. We're going to be doing some more things to this car in the future. And I got a bunch of other projects going on, so you won't be disappointed. Thank you so much. Like I said, like, share, subscribe. See you on the next one.